Hey guys, we have a $100 AFCO gift card and 4 LK lures rigged with beast hooks to give away. All you have to do is fill out a short survey and enter your email address in the box below. The link is located on Instagram and at the podcast description. Giveaway ends July 11th. My birthday, bro. And thanks again for all the support. We really appreciate it. Check out LK Lures on Instagram. They make amazing weedless baits. And check out AFCO. Big supporter, Matt Florentino. Really appreciate it, bro. Later. Welcome to Cast and Crank Podcast. Today we have Billy Egan.
Hey, how's it going? I'm glad to be here. It's awesome.
He was pointed by another fan. You're a tournament director for Western Outdoor News, correct?
Yeah, I work for Western Outdoor News. Tournament director. Also run WAN Bass, which is the professional bass side, freshwater bass side of the industry.
Okay.
But I do trout tournament, striper derby, which is stripers out at Havasu. I also work on the Cabo tuna jackpot down in Cabo, which is the largest tuna jackpot in the world right now.
Okay.
We might reach actual $1 million payout this year, which is pretty cool. We got real
crazy.
close last year with 168 boats. So I'm leaving after this tonight to Catalina to run the Catalina jackpot. So yeah, I do a lot of different things with Western Outdoor News and WAN Bass, but mainly tournament director. I also do sales for the weekly publication and sponsorships for all the events. So I deal with them as well and do sponsorships deals.
Yeah.
And I'm the head cheerleader. I basically paperclip to event, everything it takes in between.
Yeah, awesome. Do you have a boat you drive over to? I
don't have a boat. A lot of people ask me that, but the funny thing is been doing this for 10 years now. I have a lot of friends with boats.
Oh, I'm sure.
And so I don't have to worry about parking a boat or storing a boat or maintaining a boat and warranties on boats. So I kind of like it that way right now. But if I were to get a boat right now, it'd probably be a bass boat from Bass Cat. They're our major sponsor for the WAN Bass tournament circuits and Mercury. So there's one I've got my eye on. My son loves to fish. He's 11 years old, turning 12 soon. His first word was fish.
That's awesome.
So I have a daughter. She likes to go fast, but doesn't like to fish. But so that's kind of a nutshell what I'm doing.
And that's what I'm trying to push this summer. We're going tomorrow. We're going to go fish probably Isers.
Oh, nice.
And my oldest is going to be 15.
Okay.
He fishes off and on. My middle one loves fishing, but it's hard to get him once they get an age. It's like my kids play music, so it's like
they're either all in or they're
exactly. So I'm like
tired after an hour, and you're like
my middle one. I'm like, you're almost there. I think I almost got you to be like a fishing buddy, Mm-hmm. But that's cool, man. So that's cool. They play a big part. Do they come help you on some of the tournaments too?
Since they've been probably 2 years old, they've been coming to a couple like the trout fest we do up at Big Bear every year in October. They've been coming to that every year, and they've been holding trout and helping. And that's now cool. My son and my daughter actually help stuff the goodie bags for the tournaments. They help me get things organized and take a little load off me and help me carry stuff.
Oh,
but
that's nice.
My son's always there helping at the weigh-ins, trying to clip the tails, do whatever we need done. Mm-hmm. He's filling in, and actually he gets to go to the Catalina tournament as well.
Oh,
I just
really?
told him today he might be able to. So he was just tickled pink that he might be able to go. He doesn't know that he's getting to go, but he's going to go over there and help us run the Catalina jackpot over there.
Can I check with mom first or what?
I already did. I already gave her the heads up just in case. But so it's pretty cool. I've been here 10 years now.
Wow. You do the freshwater stuff then too, right?
I do freshwater and saltwater. Pat McDonald used to be the tournament director for us, and he was the editor for Western Outdoor News on the saltwater side. He retired. He's still involved with the Cabo tuna jackpot, and so I help him with that. We co direct that one. Mm-hmm. But the other saltwater events, like this one in Catalina, I've now taken over, and whatever else we come up with, I'll be probably running all of them as a tournament director since I've been doing it now for 10 years.
Do you guys do the freshwater one? Is that MLF style?
WAN Bass is, we have 3 tournaments a year. We used to, in the day when I first started, we used to have team regions everywhere. We used to have pro-ams. We had a whole lot of stuff, but there was a lot of people in the industry doing the same thing. There's not as much grass for all those people to be, vying for the same lakes at the same time for permits. And the DFG was making it harder and harder to get permits, and everybody was fighting over dates because there's only so many weekends in the year.
Yeah.
So we kind of, even though we were doing all right, I mean, we were getting good numbers and stuff, but the sponsors at that time, God, that was 7 years ago, came to us and said, look, the teams and the pro-ams are kind of cool, but if you're going to keep going that route, we'll see you at the US Open, which to us meant they want the bigger, better bang, the big events. The US Open is the biggest one we do.
Yeah.
So we, at that time, with the sponsors that we had at that time, said, okay, and you're right. We spent a lot of time, a lot of energy on these teams and these other regions and directors to help us and all this place, trophies and, all that stuff. And there's so many people that do it. Let's just focus on the bigger events. So on the WAN Bass side, we came out with, we took the model of the US Open, which started it all back in the early 80s. It was the very first $100,000 payout tournament for Bassmaster and FLW and MLF or any of these guys. And we took that same format, which for us, unlike MLF or Bassmaster, who have gotten rid of their co-anglers, for the most part are using marshals now. The FLW is the only one that's still currently using co-anglers, and Wild West, which is another pro-am type circuit out there. They do it in a non-shared weight format system so that the pro, the boater, and the co-angler, amateur, are fishing against each other for that day. So the pro, they call it backseating, getting backseated a lot, because the pro obviously doesn't want to give good water to the guy behind him that could steal a 5 or 6 pound fish that could help him win the tournament. So it's a little different atmosphere. All of our events based on the US Open have always been shared weight formats. We're the only ones that do it in the nation, as far as I know.
Okay, so the total weight of the boat.
So the total weight of the boat. So we, because our events, the Arizona Open, which we just started this year, was the first time we've done it, which is now our 3rd event, was in January. So at that event, our California Open, which is at Clear Lake, which number 3 lake in the nation, usually top 5 always, and my favorite lake, we do in April. And then US Open also, it's a shared weight system. So the amateurs get paired with a random pro each day, but a different one each day. So you never fish with the same guy twice. And we do that for multiple different reasons. 1, to give balance to the tournament, and 2, it's a lot harder to cheat with somebody if you don't know the guy. No, seriously. That was where it was really.
Did you get a lot of cheating in some of these tournaments?
Well, I think you have a question about where I got started. We'll go over that. We'll hit that topic because that's where I got started.
Really?
It was something like that got me there. But to touch and finish on the shared weight format, those guys will fish with that pro, and those 2 guys for that day are a team. So they'll bring in the best 5 fish that they can combine between each other. So they're motivating each other, and the pros makes
it a little more friendly too.
Tips,
right?
And
makes it more friendly.
Here, use my rod, and
it's
exactly what you said. The events themselves, the people come back saying that was the funnest thing that I've ever done. I can't wait for next year because it's fun. You're not competing with the guy in the boat with you. Not to say that their events aren't fun, because a lot of people support those events, and hey, to each their own. But our format lends itself to a better time.
Positive.
There's a lot of good to it, and there's the flip side of it. Some of the pros get beat by a co-angler. Because sometimes the pro who that might be fishing with that co-angler that day, the co might be better at that particular lake and catches more fish than that pro and helps that pro jump up and beat some pro who was catching his own fish. And it's happened. Jared Littner lost the California Open at Clear Lake to a AAA. The second, I think it was the very second, or it might have even been the first one we ever did.
Really?
Yeah. So, it's good and bad, but for the most part, it's an awesome experience. It's fun. You get to learn from these pros. It's like getting a guided trip for 3 days, and you're only paying $400. Usually you pay $400 for each day, so it's pretty cool. But to get onto your question, maybe I think you were going to ask where I got started.
Yeah.
I was in the, I've done a lot of different things in my life, which I've been blessed to be able to do. But I came from the construction industry, and at that time, 2007, 2008, the market crashed. I lost my job. I had a wife and 2 kids. Was actually unemployed and on disability because I had spinal surgery for some issues I'd had from all the youth, motorcycles and wrestling and rock climbing and all the different things I did as a kid. But was going through that, and at the time couldn't find a job. Unemployment was terrible, with the economy. And since I had spinal surgery, I was using fishing and walking around the lakes to rehab.
Okay.
So instead of just going for a walk, why not walk and fish? Because I love to fish. So I'd be walking around lakes and stuff and fishing and rehabbing my back and stuff. And long story short, I ran into this guy fishing at HB Central Lake because my rehab place is right up there. And he's throwing a Huddleston. And I'd never seen a Huddleston before. This is 2006.
Okay.
And he's, 1, throwing an 8-inch Huddleston, 2, at HB Central, which I knew. And I'm like, wait, there's no fish in here. I'm going to eat that. I literally looked at the guy and go, dude, what are you doing?
Yeah.
He's like, fishing. And I'm like, there's nothing in here that'll bite that. And he's like, yeah, you're probably right. And he just kept casting. And I'm throwing my big 12-inch worm because I was into big worms and big lizards and stuff. That was my thing. And he keeps walking, and I'm like, what the? This guy's playing me.
I'm going to follow this guy.
This guy's playing me. You don't just, you're probably right, and keep throwing it.
Yeah.
So I finally, his name's Tim Eves. In the swimbait industry, people know him because he's one of the early guys that did it. And so I bugged him, got his phone number. I'm like, dude, I need to know more about this. You just blew my mind. Oh my God. So he gives me his phone number. And he says, go buy an MS Slammer, a 7-inch MS Slammer, 2-piece and a 3-piece. He goes, go throw those.
Where did you get that at?
I bought it online. I just searched online at the time for MS Slammer, found him online, bought him from, I know him. I can't think of his name right now, the owner of MS Slammer.
Okay.
And he shipped them to me, a 7-inch 2-piece and 3-piece. And so my buddy Tim goes, hey, just go cast one of these till you get a bite. When you catch a fish, give me a call. 4 months later.
Oh, shit.
Fished for 4 months, throwing nothing but those lures. And I finally caught a fish, and I was just jazzed, So I called my buddy Tim up, and we barely knew each other at that time. And he's like, okay, all right, show up 5 o'clock here. We're going to go do some ninja fishing. And I'm like, ninja fishing?
What is this?
That sounds fun. So we did, and we started going to lakes, and he's like, can't talk about Fight Club,
For so Fight Club.
Yeah. So we started doing that and fishing slammers all the time, but they're made out of wood, and they eventually get soggy and blah, blah, blah. They break. You fix them, you sand them, you re-put them together. I'm a builder. I used to build things. I'm real good with my hands, so I got sick of fixing them and started making my own. And I started with a couple broom handle baits and a couple this and that, and then I went from wood bait, wood round broom handle type baits to shaped baits, and I didn't know how to paint baits, so I printed an image off the printer of a fish, and I paper machéed the bait and took them to Bassathon at 2007 and showed Kevin Van Dam and some of the big wig elite guys and the guys at Anglers Marine, and they're like, hell, I'll buy those. So I went home, told my wife at the time, I
got a new business.
I'm unemployed. I'm like, hey, it ain't gonna pay all the bills, but these guys will buy these for $70, $80 a pop. So I'm gonna make lures. So I started making fishing lures in my garage, called it Swimbaits Inc. Came out with a couple different baits, but I'd gotten like one of the first underwater video things. I started promoting videos, and a friend of mine that worked for Western Outdoor News that saw me at Bassathon thought I had the personality to fill their need for a tournament director that would be good on camera, that would be good with a microphone and so forth and so on. He's like, hey, you should apply for this job. So I did, but that was a year earlier, and 1 year later to the date, somebody else saw some videos and they called me up and they said, hey, you should apply for the job. And I'm like, funny thing is I applied a year ago. And they're like, oh yeah, that's right. Because actually, it wasn't. I was trying to get them to send me to El Salto and use my baits as a sponsorship deal to go to El Salto, and they're like, yeah, we don't really do that. But I ended up getting the job, and at that time, I was running the Irvine Lake tournament that we would do every year out there. Unfortunately, it's closed. We don't run that tournament anymore.
I love that lake. That's where I caught my first bass.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Irvine's beautiful. I don't even want to get into our local scene because that depresses me.
Is there any movement on that? Is it really ever going to happen?
Well, there was something recently. I don't know if you saw it. The local government got involved and they kind of said tisk to the water districts for not getting off their for coming up with a solution or working together to figure out a way to make it work. The hard part is water's money. No matter where you go, water's money, and those people have their hands out, and they also have insurance issues that they have to deal with. And unfortunately, with the occurrences that happened at the lake, it made it a lot tougher for anybody else to come in and deal with it because they're going to be impacted by that too. Yeah. Because for a couple of years, that's going to be haunting whoever tries to get involved with that.
Exactly.
So anyway, I get the job, and my first year was 2010, and Harvey Naslund was the current Wombass tournament director at the time, who was the original tournament director, I think, long time ago, but he had come back when the gentleman, Bill, before me left, who I filled his spot. And he was awesome. He was a great mentor. But at the time, nobody knew it. He had brain cancer, and so he taught me the best he could. And then at that 2010 U.S. Open, we had a big event. It's always a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday tournament because we like to have them on days where there's less traffic on the lake. And we had a big event the Friday before that he had put on. And that night he looked at me and he goes, "Bill, it's all yours." And I'm like, "What do you mean it's all mine?" He's like, I'm tired. You've got it. You're capable. The U.S. Open's yours to run." And he was sick at the time, and I didn't really know that. So I was like,
"Oh my God."
Okay. I literally had only been to one Pro-Am before that at Mojave with Harvey. I love Harvey. God rest his soul. He yelled my ass off for showing. I showed up to the award ceremony in sandals. "What the fuck are you doing wearing sandals? Get the fuck out of here!" Because he was old school.
Yeah,
old school,
not fucking around, right?
Yeah. So 2010 U.S. Open was my first year. I think, if my memory serves me, we had around 117 boats at the event. Some good big names. Aaron Martins fishes it as often as he can. Rick Clun comes out for it. There's some big names that come out for it. And there was some that year. John Murray, some of the guys that are fishing the elites in MLF now. And first day, everything went fine, even though the process, I'm really good. I like to say that I'm a problem solver. So my 10 years here, I've looked at the solutions and ways to make things smoother and run faster and simpler and blah, blah, blah. So that, I was new to it. But the first day of the tournament went through, everybody weighed their fish. And at Lake Mead, the national parks, who owns Lake Mead, because it's a national park, it's owned by the U.S. government, we have to get a permit from them. And when we insure the event, we actually write it to the United States of America, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
But first day of the event went by fine. Everybody weighed their fish and yada, yada, yada. Second day of the event, because of the national parks, and there are mortalities with fish, even though we try to make sure we release as many and all, if possible, back alive, there are some that die, especially when we were running this event. It was in July. It's 120 degrees out there. It's very hot. So some fish die, and they require that those fish be filleted and given to the homeless shelters. So my guys and a couple of DFG people into the second day were over at the fish cleaning station, and the head DFG lady waves to me down. She's like, "Hey, we need to talk to you." I'm like, "Yeah, I'll be right there," because I thought she wanted me to fillet fish. Yeah. But I had to actually go check on other boats to make sure they could still fish the next day, and that everybody had boats to fish on, and then so got that done because Mercury has a great crew that comes out and fixes all the boats.
Oh, no
and
way.
Make sure that they're still
That's
working.
Amazing.
Yeah, we get a lot of support at our events. But the long story goes, I go back to the bump tank where they're cleaning the fish, and the lady at the time, I can't remember her name, she's like, "Well, we got two little problems." Again, this is my first tournament. I'm like, "Okay, I'm a problem solver. What are they?" She goes, "The first one is let the guys know not to put a whole bottle of the catch and release in the live well because it'll suffocate the fish. There's the chemicals you put in the live well to help them rejuvenate and stuff." I'm like, "Okay, that's an easy one, no problem." The second one's not so easy. She pulls out this Ziploc bag. I saw the Ziploc bag and my stomach dropped to the floor because in the Ziploc bag were 3 torpedo weights.
Oh, shit.
That had been snelled with a hook at one end.
My uncle fishes. He fishes bass backwards for 20 years. He told me this story, and I was going to ask you about this fucking story.
So,
oh man, this is great.
And at this time, we didn't know whose they were, who used them, or what. And we accidentally found them because we were filleting the fish, and we accidentally found them because the DFG guy at the time goes, you know what? Let's check some of the contents of the stomach, see what they're eating. And he grabbed the first stomach laying there, and there was a weight in it. And he was like, oh. So she handed me a bag with 3 weights in it, and I was like, oh my belief in God, right? First tournament I'm running, not only is it the U.S. Open and everybody's watching nationally and blah, 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 we have a cheater. And these people are the only ones that know at this point, and one of them happens to be the most vocal guy in Nevada. Love the guy to death. I'm not going to mention his name, but I knew if
you're trying to keep it on hush.
I'm trying to keep it hush hush because it couldn't get out. If it got out, whoever did it wouldn't do it or try to do it the next day. So so you wanted to catch him? As soon as I saw those weights, I'm thinking, how do I catch this person?
Yeah.
God damn it. At my first tournament, not the U.S. Open, you're not going to take this thing down. So I made the people right there promise of secrecy to let me go through the evening to figure out what we were going to do. And luckily, the lake is 45 minutes from anywhere. So I had 45 minutes to think when I was driving back to the hotel. And at this tournament, most of the tournaments, we keep records of dead fish. So immediately I'm like, well, wait a minute. So there was 3 stomachs that had weights in it. So it was 3 dead fish. Whoever...
so this person did 3 fish.
This person did 3 fish, stuffed weights in 3 separate fish because the weights were found in 3 separate stomachs. So I knew whoever did it should have turned in 3 dead fish because the fish... they're not going to really survive. You're not going to
kill 3 dead fish in a tournament.
Well, it happens. It happens, but not very often. Maybe 1 or 2, will happen if your live well goes out or something like that. But I knew we had records. So when we got back, we checked all the weigh slips to see who happened to turn in 3 dead fish. Thank God the fish did die prior to being weighed. Otherwise, we would have never known. There's only 3 guys that had weighed 3 dead fish. So I was like, okay, let's earmark those weigh cards. So on the 3rd day, when those particular guys come up, because I didn't know 2 of them, and again, my first year, but I did know this one name, and I'm like, well, holy moly, wouldn't that be weird if it, not awesome, weird if it was this guy, because he's unbeatable in LA. For 7 years, the guy hasn't lost a tournament.
Yeah.
So I don't even think about it. Go to the 3rd day, we're weighing the fish. The first 2 guys come through. We inspect the bellies of the fish. Not that they know we are. But we did and couldn't find anything in the bellies. And then Mike Hart comes up, the particular angler that we're talking about. Weighed his fish, asked him how his day went. He was all smiles and happy and, glad that he'd caught 5 fish. And he was actually in contention to get a check. And I had already had the DFG and supposedly the police were supposed to be there as well, waiting on the side of the stage that we use. So weighed his fish, and as soon as we weighed his fish, I looked at him, whispered in his ear, I said, hey, there's some officials I'd like to see on the side of the stage, and it just went white immediately. He knew right then. And the particular DFG person that was working that day took his bag, dumped it in the gravel, and slit the bellies of all the fish in his thing, and they had weights in them.
In front of everyone?
Everybody. And meanwhile, I got 70 more boats to weigh. I'm in the middle of a weigh-in, and mayhem's going on over here. People are scattering, and I still got guys in line to weigh fish. Yeah. So I'm with the microphone and going like this, and about an hour and a half later, I finished day 3 weigh-in. We crowned a champion, which I think was Clifford Birch that year. Unfortunately for him, he got overshadowed by the whole cheating incident that we caught him, and his whole, I think it was his 2nd or 3rd, it might have been his 2nd championship U.S. Open win. He and Aaron are the only ones on 3. So kind of overshadowed his win, which was unfortunate. But the good thing is we caught him. Nevada has their own laws in Nevada. You don't cheat in Nevada without paying your due.
Yeah.
We didn't have to go after him because we knew that we banned him, that other organizations banned him, that Nevada was going to do their thing. And not to dwell on that story, but I actually, after a while, I called the district attorney in Nevada and I said, look, this guy's lost his job. His wife's lost her job. His daughter's having seizures over this, because of all the pressure.
Yeah.
The guy, he did something wrong, but he didn't
Doesn't
do
deserve
something
to learn
really,
his,
you know,
yeah,
he didn't kill
lose his
anybody,
life,
you know,
yeah.
come on. So he's already suffered a lot. Nothing more you're going to do to him is going to, you know, be worse than what he's gone through already.
Yeah.
So they gave him time served and fined him some money. And, you know, I haven't heard about him in many years, but that was then. And then from 10 years from now, we're now at the U.S. Open this year, and we're sold out with 5 months to go with 256 boats. We've been breaking the record of attendance at the U.S. Open for the past 7 years in a row. Things have
So you feel like you're doing your job pretty good, huh?
I think in 10 years, yeah, I guess after 10 years, the guys are like, holy crap, you did what? Because I'm getting, unfortunately, not everybody's on Facebook and not everybody's using social media, and there are guys out there who aren't in tune. And
I feel like it sounds bad, but the older crowd isn't.
The older crowd isn't in tune,
and would
those,
help so
those
much.
guys
Yeah,
that fished every year for 17 years called me and they're like, "You what?
Yeah,
You usually have spots up until the last week before the event, you know, and you're still trying to get people." And I'm like, "I know, I tried to call you." Because there are certain guys, I'm like, "Oh my God, they haven't got in yet. They haven't got in." And I called a few of them and they called. And so they're on a waiting list right now. I mean, it's awesome. The sponsors couldn't be happier. We couldn't be happier. The 3 events that we're doing in Wombass are doing really well and are very successful. The beauty of doing the events on weekdays and not having to fight for permits is I just put out a schedule for the next 3 years. And tournament organizations usually can't do that because you can't guarantee the weekends that you're going to get a permit for or stuff. And we can because nobody's pulling weekday permits.
Yep.
And so I was able to put our next 3 years worth of open dates out there, U.S. Open, California Open, Arizona Open dates, which to the anglers means a lot because they can count on what we're doing and the sponsors that have gotten involved. And it's pretty rad.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And the diversity of what I do, saltwater, freshwater, trout, stripers, bay bass stuff,
Do you guys do bay bass one too?
Well, we don't, but we promote them. So Jerry Mayhew, we promote his circuit
do all
down
the
there.
SBS stuff.
Yeah, we promote.
Oh, they have
him
one this weekend
because he's
actually.
a Mercury. He's with Mercury, so we promote all his events with the Mercury stuff. Mercury is the sponsor for all of our Wombass events. There are other sponsors for our saltwater events, like Yamaha is the sponsor for the Catalina event coming up. Suzuki is the sponsor of our Striper Derby at Havasu and our Trout Fest at Big Bear. So we work with them all. We've got some great sponsors in the business.
Yeah.
Western Outdoor News has been around for, 68 years now?
That's crazy, dude.
It used to be, when I was a kid, the only way me and my buddy, we also like to go trout fishing up in the Sierras, and we wouldn't go until we got that Thursday's paper
to see what's
find out where the bite was.
Yeah.
Okay, should we go there, here, or there? And
they're like the original, like Bloody Decks or like Instagram.
Exactly.
Kind of thing. Yeah.
And it's cool to see, social media and the changes, but it's also cool to be a part of it as well because we have our social media aspects as well, and we're not just print, so we're well rounded as well.
Are you guys moving more into the kind of social media too, trying to keep up with the times?
Definitely. You have to. You can't. I mean, literally, one of the reasons we sold the U.S. Open out 5 months in advance, and as far as I know, Kent Brown in the industry is up in Northern California, has been fishing tournaments forever. He's a radio host up in NorCal.
Okay.
He said he has never heard of in his life any major tournament ever selling out 5 months in advance. That's Bassmaster. That's
what a big achievement, man! That you should pat yourself on the back for that one too.
Yeah, it was pretty rad. And today we're probably sold out on the AAA spots.
Really?
So now the next 5 months is not to say it's easy, but it's a lot easier because
you could focus on other things.
We know who's in. We know where we're at. How many people we're dealing with. We know how many people are on the waiting list. So I can kind of relax a little bit on that one and focus on the Catalina one coming up.
That's this weekend.
This weekend,
okay.
yeah.
How many boats do you have on that one?
I left the office today. I think we had 24, 25 already signed up. Okay. But signups are through tonight, and then you can sign up tomorrow at Two Harbors. I think it's between 4:30 and 7 you can register. But this will be airing afterwards.
Yeah,
anyways. Yeah.
I just like to know about him. I didn't know anything about it.
It's a 2-day tournament. We're going to do it every year. It used to be an annual event that we did, but it disappeared for a couple of years, and then Yamaha came back and helped us bring it back to life. And it used to be the Catalina white sea bass tournament, but because white sea bass aren't always prevalent, and you can't guarantee they're going to be there, we made it a jackpot where it's white sea bass, yellowtail, and halibut.
Okay.
So it's a $400 entry for a team of up to 4. to go fish for the biggest fish of those 3 species. And then we have options for each. So if you get in those options, then you can weigh up to 3 fish each day.
Is there a cash prize on that one?
There's a cash payout for first, second, and third.
Okay.
Based on 50 boats, it's I think 5,000, 3,000, 2,000.
Wow.
Payout. And then the options is based on how many people get in the options. Usually everybody gets in a couple of the options. There's $100, $200, and $300 options for each fish. So it's a lot of fun. It hopefully the weather looks like a lot better this year than next year.
Do you think having SBS the same weekend kind of going to interfere?
No, because we don't have a bass division for it. So we were going to, but we didn't want to compete against SBS, and the other sponsorships that sponsor those. Yeah, because it's a tightrope you walk with sponsors. And we love them all. We've got some of the greatest in the business, but you have to make sure you're following the grid and the line that was presented and part of the contracts.
Definitely. So let's talk more about the Swimbait thing. I think that's interesting too.
For me,
well, because you start building them, and you're kind of during the time of
the heyday of Swimbaits.
Like you said, Black Dog guy.
I know
right?
Jeremy very well. I knew Mickey from 316. Met him a few times. He wasn't a fan of mine at the time. Because I used the door hinge hinge for my baits when I started making my own baits, but I used a reverse door hinge of his. So I didn't want to use the same his, but I just reversed the hinge so it wasn't exact. But I understand at that time why he was upset.
I feel like even nowadays, Swimbait making is very...
Oh, it's so controversial and it's so touchy. Yeah. I mean, a fish is a fish is a fish is a fish, and you can only make a fish so many different ways and out of so many different materials. I mean, when I started making Swimbaits, I can't remember luremaker.com. It was one of those early sites where you'd get hints and tints and stuff from people that were talking about the same stuff. And back then it was just garage stuff, I mean, not even compared to what people are doing now, but the materials weren't quite there yet. And it was J.R. Hopkins that was making baits at the time. He gave up the PVC board. The soft PVC board that people were using for window trims and shit. That's easy to sand.
Like the ASIC, whatever.
Yeah. It was easy to sand and easy to carve. And so that kind of took me from wood to multi-jointed to using cotter pins and, embedding them in. And because I always wanted to make things bulletproof. I didn't want to make it a screw hinge that could come apart because of all the things I fixed with MS Slammers. So I started a thing called Swimbaits Inc. and started making, I called them clones at the time. But like I said, it was the very first image wrapped lures. There might have been somebody that did it years before me, but nobody had seen image wrapped baits, and it blew everybody away because I didn't know how to paint.
You were printing them out
at the time. I was printing them out on paper. The first ones I ever showed at Basselthon that year, and then I was trying to figure out how to get past the paper because no matter how much epoxy you put on a bait, the water's going to get through somewhere and the ink will run, and that's what would happen. And I kind of made the baits look cool, but I knew that was an issue. I wouldn't be able to paper mache baits for long. So I was sitting there literally on my front stoop at the house watching the kids, and this car drove by with a wrap on it. And I was like, whoa, wait a minute. They wrapped that with vinyl sticker. So I went to this guy out in Temecula. He was the only one at the time making vinyl wraps. And I walked into his office and I'm like, hey, I showed him a picture of mirror image of a fish, a couple different ones, bluegills, bass, striper, a couple different options. Said, hey, can you print these for me? He looked at me like I was crazy because they were just double images of fish. Yeah. He was like, sure, cost this much. So I bought them, and then I used the vinyl to wrap punkers and wrap single body baits with, or triple trouts, or my baits with. And people started seeing that. And so not only was I making swim baits and selling them, people were sending me their punkers for $20. I'd wrap them, epoxy them, and send them back. But the whole thing for me at the beginning, when I started making swim baits, my buddy Tim and I, when I wrapped them, he's the one that came up with bait wraps. And so I named this company called Bait Wraps, there where people could send in their baits and then get them wrapped. Originally, the thought was not even to wrap the baits, but to sell the image to the guys that could do it themselves, because you didn't really want to epoxy the thing. You wanted to be able to rip the image off and match the hatch real quick. But guys were so obsessed on the finish, they wanted to see it glossy and clean and epoxied. So that's what I did for a while. I made a couple different baits, and the one that really hit was called the Sonaga. which I had made for myself, which admittedly was molded off of Huddleston. Ken even knew it because I knew Ken. I fished the HBC up at Don Pedro to promote my swim baits and to promote myself and fish against Butch Brown and all the guys up there. Man. And Kent Brown, the guy I mentioned, won the stupid tournament on a 3.5 pound worm fish. Well, we're all throwing swim baits. He won it on a worm fish, $10,000. But I originally molded the HUD and then turned it into a hard bait, cut the tail off because I didn't want anything to do with the tail, changed it to be my bait, molded it a bit, and made the first bait and the only bait I've ever seen to this date that has an inverted cup in the tail. So the tail's thick, but in the back it's inverted. And so I like to use floating baits, MS Slammer, obviously, but I like to fish fast sometimes. And so I made a bait that you could twitch and pop and burn. And when you burn it, because of the inverted cup in the back, it bubbles. Dinner bell, I called it. Yeah. Because the fish, when they hear that.
Do you still have that?
I still have it. I still have the molds. I still have everything.
Do you still fish them or no?
I still fish them. I got buddies that have them. People hit me up every day to make them. I haven't made them in 7 years.
Wow.
With kids growing, 2 young kids growing, I didn't have the time in the garage anymore with a full-time job. Something had to give.
Yeah.
So the baits went to the wayside, but there's a lot of guys that still have them. There's guys that bug me for them. Sanaga means trout in Cherokee. And the funny thing is, being early in the bait industry, you come out with names and somebody will copy it, and 2 seconds later I'd come out with a clone and one of the other companies came out, oh, we got a clone. I'm like, oh, that was original, But the Sanaga, nobody would copy because they didn't know how to spell it because it had a weird spelling.
Yeah.
It was, TSUNGNA, but it meant trout. And so a lot of guys bought them. I think I made probably 500 of those things. And I made them in 3 different versions.
Were you molding those, or were you doing?
I was molding them all.
Okay.
At this point, I had molded them.
Okay.
So, and I had made 3 different versions: a float, rip, and twitch, the original; a slow sink that had a fiber tail on it instead of a bulky tail; it just had fiber fibbits, micro fibbits. Which Mike Buca and I were the first one to ever use Hopkins was the first to use the microfibbins in his multi-jointed baits, but then Mike Buca with Bullshad started using them. Yeah. And I was using them at the time. And then the other version was a wake version, a 3-piece wake version of the same bait. And then I made a bait called the Slab, which caused a lot of uproar. It was a taxidermy thing that I found a master molder, a wood carver. And I said, I really want to make a crappie, and I want to make the one back east, the perch. So he made 2 specifically for me. I molded them. I still have the perch. I've never done anything with it, but the crappie I made, and I called it the Slab. It was a 2-piece big crappie wake bait, and people freaked out on it. And I think I made like 20 or 30 of them, and then I just stopped making baits. But that's when you kind of stopped. That's when I stopped because I was still with Western Outdoor News at this time. I was running tournaments. The owner, the family that owns Western Outdoors, they're a great group, great family, and it was taking a lot of focus away from my normal job. And he can see it because he saw me doing stuff on social media, trying to promote the Swimbait company and trying to sell. And he knew I was making baits, and he's like, "Look, you gotta focus on one thing here. And I know that's something that you care about, but this is, you got a job here." And I'm like, "You're right, I do. And I have a family and I have kids, and I can't do it all at this time. So, okay, you're right." And that wasn't the only factor, but but I made tons of great friends that I still have today. Jeremy from Black Dog, I'll go up and I'll have a beer with him when I'm on my way to a tournament. Yeah. Josh St. John from JSJ Baits, is a good buddy of mine. Matt Tactical Bass and Matt Allen and I know each other really well. We had a day on this is back my first year. Harvey Naslin, we used to have to go to the Jamboree, which is what the DFG calls for when you go to fight for all your weekend permits. So he's like, just go up there, just get your dates, fight with those assholes, and don't budge. And you're one bass. They got to give you room. And I'm like, okay, well, that's not till 8:30 in the morning. I'll be there the day before. Hey Matt, I'll be there early. Got anywhere we can go fish? And he's like, yeah. So we went and fished Pardee. lake.
Yeah.
And he's like, it's a kind of a secret little swim bait lake. At that time, not many people were doing it. Nobody was there. Literally nobody in the parking lot. And we went, and he was throwing a 9 to 12 inch homemade Optimum soft bait that he had a line through, that he made a line through. Big tail wag. And so I'm like, well, I'm going to throw my Sonaga top water. And he's like, he had just said, we're working this one point just coming out. They also bite in the deep bowls here. You wouldn't think so, but the water's so clear, they will. And so I'd fish this point, and he was kind of working it and got a follow. So I threw mine out into this bowl, big bowl. And I'm literally fishing, and I'd fish saltwater a lot when I was a kid. My dad took me all the time, and I was into yellowtail and stuff like that, and throwing irons and stuff. And so I throw my bait way out there, and I swear to God, I see this flash about 40 feet down in the water. And I'm like, saltwater flash, like you see. I'm like, dude, I just saw a flash about 40 feet underwater. He's like, hold on. Rip, boom. Big northern largemouth.
Wow.
And they have smaller mouths up there, nails it, and I catch like a 9. And that day we caught, I think we caught like 50 pounds in an hour and a half for 5 fish. I lost a teener that day. We jumped over the rope and we're fishing in an area by the towers. It was one of those days. And Matt was like, that bait's got it. And I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, it has it.
Yeah.
It's got the it thing.
Yeah.
There's certain baits that have it.
Yeah.
That one has it. It works. It's and Paul Bailey up in Northern California, he's a guide up there at Clear Lake. I had never fished with Paul, even though I knew him and his brother from the Swimbait deal, and we had talked online a bunch of times. I'd never met him before, but Mike Folkstad, if you know who he is, he's a Hall of Famer in the fishing industry and in the bass fishing industry as well, for tournament wins and 2-time U.S. Open champ. But he was up there fishing Clear Lake with Paul Bailey, and they were filming the day before, and we had a tournament coming up, and I was coming up early to fish with Paul so I can go throw my swim bait because it was Clear Lake. I'm going Sonaga fishing. Yeah. And so I called Paul, and I'm like, hey, it was like 9 o'clock at night. I'm here. He's like, dude, I can't find fish. I caught a 2.5 pounder all day today with Mike Folkstad. We were filming. I don't know where the fish are. I can't catch anybody else's fish. Everybody's getting them on these. I can't find them. I don't know what to do. And I go, your name's Paul Bailey, right? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, you're a swim bait guy, right? He's like, yeah. I go, then we're going to go through swim baits all day. And that's all we're going to do.
Yeah.
And if we don't get fish, oh well. But at least we went chucking. Forget about that worm fish and all the other stuff. Let's go have fun.
Yeah.
So we literally hit the water the next day, and this was, I think, September maybe or something like that. And it was one of the times where the lake just starts turning on. And I threw my bait out the Sonaga. He had never seen it before, and I threw it on a point, ripped it, and caught a fish.
Damn.
Right away. And he's like, oh, wow. He goes, I know where we can throw. He goes, because he saw what I was doing with the bait.
Yeah.
He saw what action I was getting at. He's like, oh, I got a few places we can go fish this. Literally, for the next hour and a half, we caught a fish on every point. I caught a fish on every point because he became a guide that day.
Yeah.
First couple of fish, he's like, this is too fun. I'm just going to watch because I don't have one. I didn't have one for him.
Yeah.
I only brought one. I had like 48 pounds in a matter of a couple points. And it got so bad. We were laughing so hard that we called it the look away, because if you watched the bait rip and twitch and pause, you wouldn't get bit. But as soon as you turn your head, dead twitching too. They just kill it. And then he was like, oh, wait a minute. I know I can make that noise. And so he grabbed a punker. And so he threw out a punker, and he's like real hard twitching, quick, hard twitches. And that punker would just go, boom.
Yeah.
And then he had a tournament coming up, and he's like,
I got it.
I got it. We went out and destroyed him that day.
Yeah.
And he actually did pretty well in the tournament.
Wow.
I was the tournament director, but I had kind of turned him on to something and opened his head back up to something that he'd forgotten about, because he got so mixed up in the tournament stuff that you forget about. Oh, yeah. Because a swim bait guy, like, I don't know if Matt, he fished the U.S. Open a couple years ago with Kevin Matson. Swimbait guy out there is not going to be able to compete with tournament guys. You just can't.
Yeah.
Because the bites are infrequent. And if you do get a bite, sometimes you lose them because the hooks bend or you don't have your drag set or you're using the wrong line, and so that was the cool thing about what I do is that the guys that I do it for, the tournament anglers, they saw who I was in the swimbait side and the fishing side and enthusiasm side of fishing,
which feels good,
because
right?
I was posting pictures. It was okay, this guy's one of us. He's not just a guy that works at a company that runs tournaments and doesn't fish and doesn't relate. I related to the anglers, to my customers and the people that are at the tournament. So when I'm at the tournaments and when I'm on stage, I talk shop with them. I know what to talk about. And even in the swimbait stuff, like today somebody posted something on Facebook. He had a bluegill bait and he lost a big fish because the hook straightened out. I'm like, then loosen your drag. You wouldn't have lost that fish. As long as you're spinning the reel, you're winning. Doesn't matter how, if you're not getting in line, keep turning the reel because eventually you're going to get a couple inches on it. Fish is going to turn, it's a science. I'm sure Matt talked about it too. Because something's going to give, whether it's a knot, a hook, a split ring, and especially on big fish. So, and Paul taught me the same thing because I used to horse the fish in and you'd lose some. He'd be like, just loosen your drag just a little bit. Doesn't matter if you're not pulling line in. Wow. Just keep reeling, keep the pressure on there, keep the tip bent. Then when they start moving, you'll get that line in. And then when they get closer, they make a run. So be it. They make a run. I've lost, my biggest fish is a 12.95.
Wow.
And the ironic part, you want to hear the ironic part? I caught it the day after the HBC tournament at Don Pedro. I drove from Don Pedro all the way home, frustrated because I didn't catch a fish at the tournament. Stopped at Oso Lake because I used to, for the construction company, I used to donate materials to their Boy Scouts there so I could be able to fish. So the guys that
I have a story about that too
are the founders that do it. They would be pissed, but they couldn't say anything because I was donating material. So I drive all the way home, put a HUD on, go over there on the riprap where
just walking
where the dam meets the dirt, the riprap, hid behind a tree, made this bomb cast with the HUD, slowly rolled it, hit a boulder, and boom. And I catch the 12.95 out of Oso Lake.
How long ago was this?
07. This is 07.
So this is when it was.
This is before the last big kill.
Okay.
That killed me because I put a lot of time and a lot of effort, and I used to fish that lake a lot. It was like the founders and me. I was like there volunteering all the time, and then that die off, I couldn't go back. Even when they restocked it, I couldn't go back.
Have you been back lately at all?
I have. I've been invited back a couple times. I got a buddy that works for the water district, so I've been by a couple times. There's fish there again. They stocked them with 2-pounders that are now like 7.
Oh, wow.
So, but then there was another die-off recently, not a major one, but they always those lakes have a hard time, with the runoff.
Yeah, I went
fertilizers.
There. Dude, I went there for a Boy Scout. My son was in the Boy Scout, a sleepover. And this was like probably 2010, 11.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, fuck yeah. I bring my rods, my reels, and they're like, oh, sorry, sir, you can't fish. And I'm like,
yeah, there's strict rules at those places, and they have insurance and they have stuff they have to deal with. But I caught my 12.95 there. I've had my personal best on many, many times on a slide swimmer, and they've always come off, and so I've had that situation happen. It was a couple of years ago, I had at least a 14 on at Niguel Lake. 14. Really? At least 13, 14 pounds, and the hook straightened, and I was like, ugh. Plus I was in a rowboat, one of the aluminum boats that they had there.
This is when the fish
was pulling me towards him, and it was all the wrong scenarios.
Yeah.
And but this was before they lost their lease there, and now it's just run by the county.
I like going there when I have a chance just to fish. I like that lake.
It's a great lake. It still has fish. It still has great fish in it, but you can only fish a third of the shoreline. And I actually talked to them just last weekend. I was there, and I talked to the rangers that I was there because I want to talk to somebody. Because growing up as a kid, I grew up in Laguna Niguel, and then we moved to Laguna Hills, and I would ride my bike every morning at about 4:00 in the morning on weekends to Laguna Niguel Lake with a buddy, and we would catch crawdads and fish the fence line and catch big fish and then throw our rapalas. And the first time I caught a 5-pounder, I think it was it's about 8, 9, 10 at Nigel on a goldfish Rapala.
Wow.
And I was hooked. That was it.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, my kid, he's 11, 12. He's got nowhere to fish.
Yeah.
Nigel, you got a small bank. You can catch a few.
Yeah.
You got Mission Vale died. You got Irvine closed. You got Woodbridge that's now not allowing non-members to fish, because back then they wouldn't stop you. You know, at least you had a couple places to go. The golf course lakes that used to have fish, they're fenced off because too many jackholes would go during the day when guys were trying to golf.
Ninja fishing.
It's like, come on. We've been fishing this lake for eons, and now you guys are going to be bold enough to go during the day when people are paying to golf. What do you think they're going to do?
Yeah.
Close it.
Yeah.
You know, so, you know, with social media, everything changes, but at the same time, social media has helped get us where we're at, not only with Juan Bass and the US Open, because that is our paper, our reach with our paper, our subscribers, our sponsors, and the social media aspect is really what's helped push the US Open get to a point where it's at right now. Besides, you know, the payout, we always pay out what we say. We're fair. Everybody knows we're a business. We deserve to make, you know, money and be in business, to run tournaments and to do what we do. But we love it. We're passionate about it. We're fishermen ourselves. Most of the people that work at the company are fishermen. So, you know, it's awesome. If you haven't fished any Western Outdoor News events, go to our website, wonews.com. There's an events tab. All of our events are always listed there throughout the year, freshwater, saltwater, all of them. We have the Big Fish Challenge, which is like 3-month long thing for saltwater. Yeah. $20 entry, and you can win some thousands of dollars in prizes. You know, we've got a lot of different cool things to do.
What's your local tackle shop?
Local tackle shop that I use when I go buy tackle, I go buy Hogan's. Okay. Because I live right in Laguna Niguel, so Hogan's is the closest. But Bill's been a long time friend, and his daughter as well. But if I need something quick, Hogan's is the place to go. Back in the day when I was a kid, it used to be Turner's that was up off of Avery over there when they were there. But I don't buy a whole lot of things online. I like to try and use the local tackle shops so that they get the money coming in the door, for the, you know, brick and mortar type stores. But I'll go there. It used to be the Jig Stop too. You know, before Hogan's was ever there, it was the Jig Stop. They were always fun and friendly. They knew who you were when you came in the door. And, you know, it's fun because I used to go in those places as a kid, and then when I was a tournament director, it was a whole different thing. You know, oh, it's Bill. Yeah, crazy to see you. You know, see him at the conventions and people that I've grown up with that fish, you know, high school guys that I went to high school with that have boats that see me at Fred Hall and stuff. It's so cool that you get, you know, and everybody has this, it's, you got the dream job, and I do. Yeah. What I do is awesome, and most people think, oh, when you work in the fish industry, you get to fish more. You actually fish less. And most people that work in the fish industry were the first one to tell you that. That's
the first thing I've heard from everyone. They're like, hey, just make sure you still fish. And I'm like, all right. And then it's been, August will be a year doing this. And I'm like, my fishing's went down like 50%.
You got to get yourself out there, do it. You're passionate about for sure. And even if you're not catching, just to get outside. Just get out there, right? Yeah. My wife used to wonder why I always went ninja fishing. And I'm like, because the kids are asleep and they're good. You're good. And it's quiet. Right. It's just me and the crickets and the bass. But I go, look, I'm not going to the bars. I'm not going out with my buddies. I'm going to the lake. Yep. And just me and my buddy, and we're catching fish. Yep. And being scared away by coyotes or rattlesnakes. Which happened many times. You need Kevin Matson over there to start ripping some rattlesnake heads. I stepped. We were speaking of Rattlesnake Lake, which I knew some of the founders, and this was way back then. But me and Tim, we stepped next to the bush, and I was in. And I'm like, which way do I jump? He's like, I don't know, but I'm jumping. You just jump and just go. Okay, we're out of here. Hopefully I don't get bit. Yeah, anti-venom. We had a female coyote and a cub come up to us once, and you know, I was like, throwing something at her. She wouldn't budge. And all of a sudden she started howling, and all of a sudden you hear 12 or 13 other coyotes howling coming down the hill. Let's go. And I look at him, I'm like, okay, we'll give them this side of the lake. Let's go. But yeah, lots of adventures, lots of fun. Yeah, definitely. Do you have any sponsors you like to thank? Yeah, gosh, with Western Outdoor News, all the different sponsors we have, Juan Bass especially, Bass Cat Boats, Mercury Motors, Daiwa, St. Croix, Luz, Strike King, Costa Sunglasses, Yamaha, Suzuki, you name them, Cigar Line, SKB backpacks, Angle Coolers, Life Source Water System, Bridgeford Foods. I could go on for days. We've got some of the best in the business, but you can check them out at either wonbass.com or wonews.com or our Facebook page for Juan Bass or Facebook for Western Outdoor News. We have Instagram as well for all of them. If you're interested in the Juan Bass tournaments, you can join our group at Juan Bass Tournament Anglers Group. And then that way, whenever we do updates, you automatically know what's going on. There's lots of ways to connect or call me at the office.
Yeah.
You can reach me at my email, Billy, Bille, at wonews.com. If you got any questions or comments about the events or about what we do, 949-366-0248 is my direct line. So anytime if you want to talk freshwater, saltwater tournaments, lures.
Yeah. Thanks again, Billy. Very interesting. I'm sure some people might not even know that you built all these swim baits back in the day, and very interesting story. Dude, I really, really appreciate you coming on. Thanks for listening, guys. Listen for the next one. Take care.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. And good luck out there.
Thanks.